I'm Jeremy Wade. Today I'm going to be reviewing fishing scenes.
Get out! Help!
Jeremy Wade spent 10 years hunting river monsters for TV. Millions watched him battle deadly fish across 6 continents. I was going to say it's built like a missile, but at 69, he's finally telling the truth about why the show really ended. It wasn't just about running out off monsters. There were secret incidents he hid from producers, million-dollar offers she rejected, and a disturbing discovery about what was happening to the rivers themselves. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. The network wanted him to fake things. Wade refused. What he reveals about the show's final days will shock you. Jeremy Wade came into the world on March 23 RD, 1956 in Aldershot, a quiet little place in Hampshire where Britain was still shaking off the dust of the war years. Life at home was steady. His father drew blueprints as an architect, and his mother kept the house running with calm routines. Nothing wild, nothing strange. Aldershot itself was changing slowly, moving from its old garrison past into something softer, something suburban. People still talked about rationing, most families played it safe. And the wads were no different. School, church, simple holidays. It was all so controlled that you would never guess a future river hunter was growing up in that quiet house. But something stirred early. It happened when Jeremy was only 5. His family took a trip to the Riverway in 1961, and for fun, he brought a little rod made from garden canes and string. It looked ridiculous, but he dropped braid on the hook and hoped. After a few tries, the line tugged. A small perch broke the surface. That tiny moment lit something inside him. He begged to fish every weekend. He carried dried fish heads to school. Teachers noticed his strange obsession. While other boys kicked footballs, he pressed his face close to stream water, hunting shadows. Nobody understood it. Not yet. The summers that followed belonged to ponds and streams. He wandered alone through the 1960s countryside, notebook under his arm, sketching whatever he found. He visited the library so often the staff began greeting him by name, sometimes 5 times a week. He copied diagrams by hand. He labeled species with real taxonomy even before he turned 7. His notebook showed careful drawings of fish, insects, even frogs. Everything measured, everything noted. He spent hours crouched near muddy edges just watching life move in the water. These small moments shaped his mind. They taught him to slow down. They taught him to notice what others ignored. Then something frightening happened. In 1966, when he was about 10, he chased a local rumor about a giant eel hiding in Amity Stream. He wanted to see it with his own eyes. In his rush, he slipped, the thick mud dragged him down and the water closed over his head. He fought to climb out but sank deeper until a passerby spotted him and pulled him free. He came home soaked, shaking, and silent. His family panicked. They banned him from exploring alone. But instead of stopping him, the scare pushed him further. He began sneaking out at night. He carried a small net, his notebook, and a stubborn need to understand every corner of the river. A year later, after his family moved to Iping, he found something that felt like treasure. An old tackle shop left to rot when its owner retired. Dust everywhere, shelves sagging, but the drawers held hooks and lines and wooden rods. It became his secret workshop. Each night he slipped it in through a loose back panel, borrowed old gear, and fished quietly until dawn. One night, after hours of patience, Helen did a 2lb roach. He measured it 3 times. He wrote every detail in his book. That catch felt like a medal. He kept returning night after night, experimenting with new baits and tricks. The place became his private laboratory, and he guarded it with pride. When he entered Uppingham School in 1968, he carried all that river life with him. Most students wanted sports. Jeremy wanted biology. He joined the school's biology club and turned empty classrooms into small labs filled with jars, sketches, and specimens. He led his friends through dissections of fish he caught himself. They started calling him the fish whisperer because he always knew when fish were spawning or how they moved in different seasons. By 16, he was writing small reports about river ecology, and teachers praised him for accuracy far beyond his age. He often skipped sports practice, choosing instead to study fish anatomy alone at his desk. Then came a trip to Scotland in 1970. The family visited the Highlands, and Jeremy saw wilder water than anything near home. He borrowed a book on fly fishing from a local angler, practiced quietly, and by the end of the day caught his first salmon. It could have been a trophy. Most anglers would have bragged. Jeremy held the fish for a moment, then released it. His family stared in disbelief, but that small act showed who he was becoming. His respect for wildlife grew from that point on. It was the beginning of the conservation mindset that shaped his whole future. Back home, something harder unfolded. His father wanted him to follow a safe path into engineering. Jeremy wanted zoology. The arguments filled dinner tables. His father talked about job security. Jeremy talked about fish, rivers, and the way the world felt alive when he studied them. By 16, he had stacks of sketches and biology notes. He refused to give up his dream. It created tension, but it also strengthened him. He learned that following your passion often means standing alone. Then came another life-changing scare. At 16 on the Norfolk Broads, he rowed out alone to collect fish for his biology club. A sudden storm hit. The boat flipped. The cold water swallowed him. Still, he held into his catch bag and fought the current for over 2 miles until he reached shore. He was soaked, shaking, and exhausted. That close call taught him how unforgiving water can be. It also pushed him to learn survival skills. He studied first aid. He trained himself to stay calm in danger. Years later, those lessons kept him alive on the rivers he explored for his show. By the time he finished school in 1974, he had created a monster list. Names like goliathtigerfish, arapaima, meowing giant catfish. He had copied them from National Geographic magazines and circled them in red. These were not just dream creatures. He saw them as a map for his life. While friends prepared for normal careers, he promised himself he would travel the world to find those monsters. Many of them later appeared on River Monsters straight from those teenage notebooks. So, he went to the University of Kent in 1974 and studied zoology. He focused on freshwater ecology. His senior thesis covered the migration patterns of the European catfish, a giant that can grow over 3 m long and weigh more than 130 kilograms. To study them, he spent nights in polluted tributaries of the River Thames, waist-deep in dirty water. He took risks most students avoided, but his data was strong. Professors praised him. They saw a fearless biologist who learned best on the riverbank. During summers, he worked at Bristol Zoo's aquarium. There, he learned to hand-feed piranhas. One day, a colleague slipped and dropped a hand into the tank. The piranhas bit his finger. Blood filled the water. Chaos followed. Jeremy did not panic. He observed. He studied. Dangerous fish fascinated him. He debated with staff about why people feared them. He believed fear came from misunderstanding, and that belief shaped his future role as a teacher on television. In 1976, he traveled to India for a study semester and focused on the ecology of the Ganges River. The river was beautiful and dangerous at the same time. Its water carried sewage and industrial waste. After sampling fish, he fell ill with severe dysentery, high fever, vomiting, dehydration. He spent nearly 3 weeks in a hospital, weak and shaken. This near-death moment forced him to look at tropical rivers differently. From then on, he became drawn to the giants and mysteries of rivers like the Ganges and the Amazon. During university, he also taught fishing to underprivileged kids in Canterbury. He told them stories often eating fish to grab their attention, mixing excitement with science. The kids loved it. They asked for more. Jeremy realized that storytelling could teach people about wildlife better than any textbook. It was a hint of what was coming later in his life. He graduated in 1978 with a zoology degree and ignored offers for quiet lab jobs. He chose adventure instead. He worked as a freelance guide in the rivers of East Anglia. He caught record-breaking tension, became known locally for skill and patience. Regional papers featured him as a rising angler. This bold path became his doorway to the world he had dreamed about as a child. Standing beside the riverway with a homemade fishing rod, Jeremy Wade stepped into his life of danger long before anyone knew his name. Right after finishing his zoology degree in 1978, he took a simple teaching job in Hungary because it was the only way he could fund his obsession with fishing. The Danube River kept pulling him in. Its long stories, its old mysteries, and especially the legendary Wells catfish made him restless. Even though communist rules banned night fishing, he still sneaked out in the dark. He sat alone on frozen river banks with temperatures close to zero, waiting for something huge to break the surface. One night in 1979, everything caught up with him. Local authorities spotted him, accused him of illegal wildlife interference, and locked him in a Soviet-style cell for 24 hours. The cold walls, the silence, and the fear stayed with him for years. Yet something inside him hardened. That early clash with authority pushed him toward wilder places. In 1981, he used all his savings for his first self-funded trip to India. People near the Key River whispered about the gooch catfish. They said it dragged people into the water. They said it lurked near funeral sites where remains washed downstream. Wade wanted to see the truth. One day he hooked a gooch classido 100 pounds. And for a moment he felt the rush of victory. Then a mugger crocodile lunged in and tore the fish away while Wade fought to stay upright. His arms were ripped open. The wounds got infected from river water and he spent weeks trying to heal. Even so, here turned and caught a 161-pound gooch, agent 3 times bigger than most. That moment proved the old stories were real. Between 1982 and 1985, he wrote for Trout and Salmon magazine and wandered through the Amazon. In 1984, he chased Arapima in Brazil and the mosquitoes chased him back. One bite turned into dozens and those bites turned into malaria. The fever came fast. He shook until he could not hold his gear. He saw bright hallucinations of giant fish running through the trees. Nearby villagers dragged him to safety. They treated him with fine extracts and basic remedies, but modern medicine had to finish the fight. He stayed there 3 months later. He said that malaria felt as frightening as facing any predator in the wild. By 1989, he had seen enough danger to fill a lifetime, and he poured it all into a book called Third World Fishing. People were shocked by what he described. He had slipped past armed poachers in the Myeong Delta while trying to record the truth. He had watched rare species being taken for pennies while officials ignored everything. His escape from one group of smugglers became one of the book's most talked about moments. Readers felt his fear on every page. The honesty of it made him known in environmental circles and opened doors she never expected. In 1991, he got a BB Radio appearance. He was supposed to talk calmly about fish migration, but he slipped into a story about a parent attack on a diver in Brazil. That unscripted moment spread fast. People kept replaying his voice because it felt real. Soon he had print offers from HarperCollins. The story also pushed scientists to revisit old myths about piranhas, and WD's first-hand experiences gave the debate real weight. That one broadcast made him a known voice in wildlife storytelling. A year later, in 1992, he filmed the pilot Indiana called Jungle Hooks. Everything felt extreme from the start. He landed a 200 lb Peacock base, a career highlight, but the celebration ended early when a crew member was bitten by a venomous snake. A helicopter evacuation became the only option. Storms wrecked equipment. The jungle itself seemed to fight them. The pilot never became a full series, but the stories from that shoot spread among adventure fans. People talked about how Wade stayed calm when everything around him fell apart. In 1994, he worked with David Attenborough's team on a segment about Arctic char for life in the freezer. The team loved his knowledge and offered him a full-time role, but he turned it down. He did not want staged wildlife scenes. He preferred the messy, unpredictable chaos of real exploration. Even so, his work with them expanded his connections and reminded others that he cared more about truth than polished television. By 1997, he was deep into Congo expeditions. His articles in the Field magazine described days of dodging rebel checkpoints and facing men with guns. During one of these trips, he caught a record Goliath tiger fish